While all eyes this week have been focused on Ebola coming to the shores of the United States, we still have this little matter going on over in Iraq and Syria with this little group we call ISIL. To discuss what's happening over there now, we're joined by Dr. Robert Zubrin, president of Pioneer Energy and senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy. Dr. Zubrin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure to have you. You wrote a fascinating article this week. I believe it was entitled "Obama Betrays the Kurds." Now, just to set this up, you're actually talking about the Syrian Kurds. Am I correct?
Primarily they're getting the brunt of it, but also, frankly, the Kurds in Iraq are also getting pretty poor treatment.
Okay, so what is the president, in your estimation, doing wrong here? Why is he letting down our Kurdish allies?
Well, what's happening is that the ISIS is attacking a major Kurdish enclave in Syria called Kobani. There's about 400,000 Kurds there. And all they have are AK-47s, rocket-propelled grenades. They're pleading for arms. They're pleading for U.S. tactical air support. The ISIS is attacking them with scores of tanks and artillery. And they're really in danger of being defeated and exterminated. And the only help they sent over two fighters on Saturday that took out two ISIS tanks and then just flew away. And the attack is going on. And they're refusing to send them any arms. This is awful. These people are willing to fight ISIS. They are fighting ISIS, but we're letting them be defeated. We're looking for having boots on the ground. Their boots are on the ground, and we're letting ISIS kill them. And by the way, if those Kurdish fighters are killed, hundreds of thousands of women and children are going to be massacred.
I understand, of course, that the United States is the major player here, but we've just seen Turkey finally decide to potentially commit ground troops and other military supplies. If the United States doesn't act quickly or can't act quickly, can the Turks, who have a much better relationship with the Kurds than they used to, can they do anything?
Well, in fact, the Turks are massing troops on their own side of the border, and they're blocking Kurdish refugees from escaping into Turkey. Okay, they're setting them up for a massacre. Now, it looks like that what they're planning to do is let ISIS kill the Kurds and then move in and mow down ISIS afterwards. This is kind of like the strategy that Joseph Stalin used in dealing with the Warsaw Uprising of 1944. When the Polish underground rose against the Nazis, he had the Red Army halt in place just across the river from Warsaw and let the Nazis.
I understand that's your theory. Do you have actually any evidence?
The Red Army. What?
Do you have any evidence for this other than your theory?
Other than what's actually happening?
Well, no, the point is you're making a very serious charge against the Turks. I understand the Turks and the Kurds have historical grievances, but they've cooperated very much recently. Do you have actual evidence from or statements that indicate the Turks are actually planning to do this?
Kurds lined up at the border trying to get across into Turkey, and the Turks have closed the border. These people are fleeing in terror from ISIS, and the Turks are not letting them get away. And the Turks are stopping other people from sending arms to the Kurds, and the Turks have been letting foreign fighters go through Turkey to get to join ISIS.
So, Dr. Zubrin, going back to the issue of the United States failing to assist, as you allege in the piece, you know, there's usually a reason, whether it be a good reason or a bad reason, there's usually a reason behind that. What's going wrong here? Why isn't the U.S. providing the aid, considering that we're using the Kurds as our boots on the ground in this situation? Why aren't we sending the arms that they need?
Well, apparently we're not using the Kurds as our boots on the ground. We're letting the Kurds fend for themselves. We're not giving them tactical air support. If we did give them,
the question is
the
why?
right strategy to use to deal with ISIS is exactly the strategy the Bush administration used against the Taliban, where they had the Northern Alliance, who weren't much by themselves, but with the help of heavy U.S. tactical air support, were able to sweep the Taliban who had 45,000 men right off the map. Okay, the Kurds can do this for us in the war against ISIS right now. This war does not need to go on for years and years like Barack Obama says. We could defeat them in 2 or 3 months, just like we did the Taliban.
Well,
but
it's not just Barack Obama who's suggesting this war is going to go on for years and years. I don't think I've heard anybody from either side until you suggest otherwise.
Well, it depends what you mean by the war. Okay, if you're talking about ultimately getting rid of ISIS, that could take years. But if you're talking about getting rid of them as a large conventional force that controls territory openly, that could be done in a couple of months, just as it was done in Afghanistan. Okay, yeah, the Taliban are still around, but they don't control Afghanistan anymore. Okay, we could eliminate ISIS as an actual state, as it were, and reduce it back to being just a terrorist gang that does it.
So, Doctor, because we're running short on time, just to sum up, your advice, it sounds to me, would be that we need to get it moving here in terms of getting arms to the Kurds, and that we still need to supply more air support. Fair?
Yes, heavy tactical air support, that is using our aircraft to provide, essentially the equivalent of artillery to
I gotta
but
end it
without
there.
giving them
Thanks so much for joining with us today. We're going to be back after a break with the Malzberg panel again. But first, when Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus almost 60 years ago, she sparked the beginning of a new chapter in the civil rights movement, the Montgomery bus boycott. Let's take a look back at that historic day with this hour's American moment. This is one you should keep in mind because it doesn't get much more important than this in our history.
Her name is synonymous with the struggle for equal rights throughout America. But when Rosa Parks stepped on that Montgomery, Alabama bus on December 1st, 1955, she didn't set out to make history. She just wanted to get home. Montgomery's segregated buses had divided seating, white passengers in front, colored passengers in the back. Contrary to popular belief, Rosa was sitting in the back of the bus. But when the bus driver needed more seats for his white passengers, he ordered her and 3 others to vacate their seats. The others complied and moved, but Rosa quietly refused and was quickly arrested. Working alongside Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa's arrest sparked a highly effective citywide protest with African Americans boycotting city buses.
December 5th was the day the people stayed off in large numbers and did not ride the bus. In fact, most of the buses, I think all of them were just about empty.
Rosa's protest and resulting boycott didn't end segregation, but it sparked a movement that ended the racial system, paving the way for a more equal society. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
The White House says it will not place travel bans to West African countries affected by Ebola. I'm Francesca Page, and this story tops on Newsmax Now Update. The Obama administration says screening systems at West African airports are sufficient, even though a man from Liberia brought the virus to Texas. The mother of the freelance cameraman infected with Ebola says her son is staying positive. The Rhode Island native will return to the U.S. for treatment after contracting the virus in Liberia. And the military warns troops and their families to be mindful of what they post online. This comes after a new report on ISIS chatter, which points to the possibility of an attack on personnel. And a top Saudi cleric condemns ISIS during the annual pilgrimage to Mecca. Speaking from Mount Arafat, the Grand Mufti says that ISIS extremists are the enemies of Muslim nations. That's your latest Newsmax Now update. More coming your way in 30 minutes.